Friends, today we will learn about cell communication and cell signaling. First is host parasite interactions. Microbes are consistently associated with the body surfaces of animals and plants. There are many more microbial cells on the surface of a human than there is human cells that make of the animal. The bacteria and the other microbes that are consistently associated with an animal or plant are called the normal flora, or more properly the indigenous microbiota of the animal or plant. Many bacteria have such a full range of symbiotic interactions with their animal host. In biology, symbiosis is defined as life together, that is, two organisms live in an association with one another. Thus, there are at least three types of relationships between relationship based on the quality of the relationship for each member of the symbiotic association. Come to mutualism. Both members of the association will benefit. For human, one classic mutualistic association is that of the lactic acid bacteria that live on the vaginal epithelium of a woman. The bacteria are provided habitat with a constant temperature and supply of nutrients in exchange for the production of lactic acid, which protects the vagina from colonization and disease caused by yeast and other potentially harmful microbes. Now come to commensalism. There is no apparent benefit of harm to either member of the association. A problem with commensal relationships is that if you look at one long enough and hard enough, you often discover that at least one member is being helped or harmed during the association. Consider our relationship with Staphylococcus epidermis, a consistent inhabitant of the skin of human. Probably the bacterium produces lactic acid that protects the skin from colonization by harmful microbes that are less acid tolerant. But it has been suggested that other metabolites that are produced by the bacteria are an important cause of body odors and possibly associated with certain skin cancers. Commensalism best works when the relationship between two organisms is unknown and not obvious. Parasitism. In biology, the term parasite refers to an organism that grows, feeds, and is sheltered on or in the different organism while contributing nothing to the survival of its host. In microbiology, the mode of existence of a parasite implies that the parasite is capable of causing damage to the host. This type of a symbiotic association draws our attention because a parasite may become pathogenic if the damage to the host results in disease. Some parasitic bacteria live as normal flora of human while waiting for an opportunity to cause disease. Other non-indigenous parasites generally always cause disease if they associate with a non-immune host. Parasitology is actually a branch of microbiology, refers to the scientific study of parasitism, and a pathogen is a microorganism or virus that is able to produce disease. Pathogenicity is the ability of a microorganism to cause disease in another organism, namely the host for the pathogen. As implies, pathogenicity may be a manifestation of a host parasite interaction. Example, in human, some of the normal bacterial flora, that is Staphylococcus aureus, Staphylococcus pneumonia, and Haemophilus influenza are potential pathogens that live in a commensal or parasitic relationship without producing disease. They do not cause disease in their host unless they have an opportunity brought on by some compromise or weakness in the host anatomically barriers, tissue resistance, or immunity. Furthermore, the bacteria are in a position to be transmitted from one host to another, giving them additional opportunities to colonize or infect. There are some pathogens that do not associate with their host except in the case of disease. These microbes may be thought often of as obligate pathogens, even though some may rarely occur as normal flora. In asymptomatic or recovered carriers, or in some form where they cannot be eliminated by the host. Now come to recognition and entry of different pathogens. Microbes which can cause a disease in a compromised host, which typically would not occur in a healthy host, are acting as opportunistic pathogens. Pseudomonas aeruginosa bacterium causes urinary tract infections, respiratory system infections, dermatitis, soft tissue infections, bacteremia, and a variety of systematic infections, particularly in cancer and AIDS patients who are immunosuppressed. Now come to infections. It is necessary that pathogens must first gain access to the host, that is, it must adhere and penetrate before infection is established, and then it must continually evade host defenses, the normal flora, as well as any contaminating microbe from the environment is all found on the body surfaces of the animals or plant. It is necessary that pathogens must first gain access to the host, that is, it must adhere and penetrate before infection is established, and then it must continually evade host defenses, the normal flora, as well as any contaminating microbe from the environment is all found on the body surfaces of the animal or plant. The blood and internal tissues are sterile. If a microbe, whether or not a component of the normal flora, breaches one of these surfaces, an infection is said to have occurred. Infection does not necessarily lead to infectious disease, but other factors such as the route of entry, the number of infectious microbes, and the status of the host defenses play a role in determining the outcome of infection. To cause disease, a pathogen must gain access to the host, must adhere to host tissues, must penetrate or evade host defenses, must damage the host either directly or through accumulation of microbial waste. Let's know about the properties of host. In host, the host parasite interaction is in the animal or a plant that maintains the parasite. The host and parasite are in a dynamic interaction, the outcome of which depends upon the properties of the parasite and of the host. The microbial parasite has its determinants of virulence that allow it to invade and damage the host and to resist the defenses of the host. The host has various degrees of resistance to the parasite in the form of host defenses. Entry of pathogen into host. Most pathogens must gain access to the host, adhere to host tissue, penetrate or evade host defenses, and damage the host tissue. Pathogens can enter to human body or other host through several avenues called portals of entry. Now let's know about portals of entry. Mucous membranes. Mucous membranes is the most common route for most pathogens, or entry through mucous membranes is achieved in respiratory tract, gastrointestinal tract, and or urinary tract or genital tracts and conjunctiva. Second is skin. Skin means keratinized cutaneous membrane. While some pathogens infect hair follicles and sweat glands, few can colonize surface. Unless broken skin is usually an impermeable barrier to microbes. It is important that most microbes must enter through their preferred portal of entry in order to cause disease. Some can cause disease from many routes of entry. Most usually also exit the host from the same original portal to spread disease. Now come to parental route. Some pathogens penetrate skin through punctures, injections, bites, cuts, surgery, etc. and deposit organisms directly into deeper tissues. Now come to numbers of invading microbes. Let's know about numbers of invading microbes. The likelihood of disease increases as the number of invading pathogens increases. ID 50 infectious dose 50 is the number of microbes required to produce infection in 50% of the population. Usually there is different ID 50 for different pathogens. Also, there is different ID 50 for different portals of entry for the same pathogen. LD 50 lethal dose is defined as the amount of toxin or pathogen necessary to kill 50% of the population in a particular time frame. Now come to what do you mean by adherence? It is the attachment to the host by microbe at portal of entry and is usually necessary for virulence. In fact, blocking adhesion can prevent disease. Usually, pathogen has surface molecules called adhesins or ligands that bind specifically to the host surface receptors. Most microbial adhesins are glycoproteins or lipoproteins located on the glycocalyx, capsid, pili, fimbriae or flagella. Most host receptors are typically proteins or carbohydrates in the wall or membrane of the host. Now let's know about adhesins or ligands bind to receptors on the host cells. Glycocalyx, this Streptococcus mutans. Fimbriae is Escherichia coli. M protein, Streptococcus pyogenes. OPA protein, that is Neisseria gonorrhea. Tapered end, Treponema pallidum. Now let's know about biofilms. They are formed when microbes adhere to a surface that is usually moist and contains organic matter. Each microbe secretes glycocalyx, thus allowing other microbes to adhere. Hence, a large mass is formed. The biofilm formed is resistant to disinfectants and antibiotics. This poses a problem for catheters and surgical implants and in fact serves as chronic reservoir. Let's know about enzymes. Coagulase means coagulate blood. Kinases digest fibrin clots. Hyaluronidase is a hydrolyzes hyaluronic acid. Collagenase, that is hydrolyzes collagen. IgA proteases, that is destroy IgA antibodies. Siderophores take iron from host iron binding proteins. Antigenic variation, that is alter surface proteins. Now come to toxins. Let's know about the toxins. Toxin, substances that contribute to pathogenicity. Toxigenicity, that is ability to produce a toxin. Toxemia, that is presence of toxin in the host blood. Toxoid, that means inactivated toxin used in a vaccine. Now come to antitoxin, means antibodies against a specific toxin. Now come to determinants of virulence. Let's know about Determinants of virulence. Pathogenic microbes are able to produce disease because they possess certain structural or biochemical or genetic traits that render them pathogenic or virulent. The sums of the characteristics that allow a given microbe to produce disease are the pathogens determinants of virulence. Some pathogens may rely on a single determinant or of virulence. The defenses may stop the process before disease is apparent. At other times, the defense that are necessary to defeat a pathogen may not be effective until infectious disease is well into progress. Typically, the host defense mechanisms are divided into two groups, that is innate defenses, inducible defenses. Innate defenses means defenses common to all healthy animals. These defenses provide general protection against invasion by normal flora or colonization, infection, and infectious disease caused by pathogens. Innate defenses include anatomical and structural barriers, inflammation, phagocytosis, and the presence of a normal bacterial flora. The innate defenses have also been referred to as natural or constitutive resistance since they are inherent to the host. Inducible defenses. Defense mechanisms that must be induced or turned on by host exposure to a pathogen. Unlike the innate defenses, they are not immediately ready to come into play until after the host is appropriately exposed to the parasite. The inducible defenses are synonymous with acquired or adaptive immunity and involve the immunological responses to a pathogen causing an infection. Adaptive immunity is generally quite specifically directed against an invading pathogen. The innate defenses are specific and are directed toward general strategic defense. Innate defenses by themselves may not be sufficient to protect a host against pathogens. Such pathogens that evade or overcome the relatively non-specific defenses are usually susceptible to the more specific inducible defenses once they have developed the immune system. The inducible defenses are so called because they are induced upon primary exposure to a pathogen or one of its produces. The inducible defenses are a function of the analogical system and the immune system responses. The innate defenses are immediately available for host defense. The inducible defenses must be triggered in a host and initially take time to develop. The type of resistance thus developed in the host is called acquired immunity. The term immune usually means the ability to resist infectious disease. Immunity refers to the relative state of resistance the host to a specific pathogen brought on by the activities the immunological system. The acquired or adaptive immunity itself is sometimes divided into two types based on how it is acquired by the host. In active immunity, the host undergoes an immunological response and produces the cells and factors responsible for immunity. That is, the host produces its own antibodies and or immunoreactive lymphocytes. Active immunity can persist a long time in the host, up to many years in human. In passive immunity, there is acquisition by a host of immune factors which were produced in another animal. That is, the host receives antibodies and or immunoreactive lymphocytes originally produced in another animal. Passive immunity is typically short-lived and usually persists only a few weeks or months. Now come to antigen. Let's know about antigen. Antigens are chemical substances or relatively high molecular weight that stimulate the immune response in animals. Bacteria are composed of various macromolecular components that are antigens or antigenic in their host, and bacterial antigens interact with the host immunological system in a variety of ways. Now come to natural antibodies. Studies in germ-free animals have confirmed that a normal bacterial flora in the gastrointestinal tract is necessary for full development of immunological tissues in the intestine. Furthermore, the interaction between these immune tissues and intestinal bacteria results in the production of serum and secretory antibodies that are directed against bacterial antigens. These antibodies probably help protect the host from invasion by its own normal flora, and they can cross react with antigenically related pathogens. For example, antibodies against normal E. coli could react with closely related pathogenic Shigella dysenteria. These types of antibodies are sometimes called natural or cross-reactive antibodies. Penetration of host defenses. There are various levels of host defenses to overcome by pathogen for disease development. The various penetration processes are capsule. Let's know about capsule. First is capsule, cell wall components, enzymes, antigenic variations like this. Let's know first of all capsules. The organized glycocalyx layer, that means carbohydrates outside cell wall, is known to impair phagocytosis. It prevents engulfment and destruction by leukocytes. If present, it is usually required for virulence, even though some of them are non-antigenic. Now come to cell wall components. M protein of Streptococcus pyogenes is a heat and acid resistant molecule which mediates attachment of bacterium to epithelial cells and resists phagocytosis by leukocytes. Fimbriae plus OPA means membrane protein. OPA means membrane protein is used by Neisseria gonorrhea and promotes attachment and uptake by host epithelial cells and leukocytes. Neisseria then grows inside these cells. Mycolic acid of Mycobacterium tuberculosis resists digestion by phagocytes. Mycobacterium then grows inside phagocytosis. Let's know about enzyme or exoenzyme. Enzymes. Coagulases are a clot fibrin in blood to create protective barrier against host defenses. Kinases is used to dissolve clots to allow escape from isolated wounds. Example: streptokinase, Streptococcus pyogenes, Staphylococcus aureus. Third is hyaluronidases used to hydrolyze hyaluronic acid, that is glue that holds together connective tissues and epithelium barriers, thereby allowing deeper invasion. Example: Clostridium species. It allows them to cause gangrene, tissue necrosis. Collagenase usually breaks down collagen for invasion into muscles and organs. Example: Clostridium species. IgA proteases destroys host IgA antibodies found in mucous secretions to allow adherence and passage at mucous membrane. Example: Neisseria species that infect CNS, central nervous system. Antigenic variation. Let's know about antigenic variation. Here, the pathogen alters its surface antigens to escape attack by antibodies and immune cells. Example: Neisseria gonorrhea has many versions of the OPA gene. It can alter which one is being expressed. Example: influenza virus, where there is constant genetic recombination between flu viruses, leading to always new spike proteins. Penetration into host cytoskeleton. This involves the use of actin of host cells to penetrate and move within the cell. It involves several proteins like invasins. They are the surface proteins produced by bacteria to control actin. Example, Salmonella, which rearranges actin, thereby causing the cell membrane to wrap around the microbe and take it into the cell. Endocytosis. It also allows Salmonella to penetrate intestinal epithelium. Further, in Shigella and Listeria, it triggers endocytosis, which polymerizes actin behind bacterium to propel through host cell. Cadherin. It allows penetration between cells at intercellular junctions. Example, Shigella and Listeria, which move between cells at cell junctions. Using host nutrients. Iron is required for all cells by both the host and the pathogen. However, host usually does not have free iron available. In the case of human, bind unused iron to transport proteins like transferrins. The pathogens can produce siderophores, which are secreted by bacteria to compete iron from host proteins, and siderophore iron complex then absorbed by bacteria. Let's know about alteration of cell behavior by pathogens. Host tissues show different types of response to activities of the pathogen after it has establishment infection and when it starts parasitic and pathogen activities. In the initial stages of penetration, this may be a striking increase in protoplasmic strands, and the nucleus of the cell may move to the site of penetration. Normal physiological activities of the host cell are disturbed, and anatomical and morphological changes appear as visible changes. The main harmful effects are due to pathogen, enzymes, hormonal imbalance and metabolic disturbances. Now come to direct damage to colonized area. The growth and replication in host cells resulting in host cell lysis are during penetration through host cells, mucosa organs, hence causing damage and finally lysis of host cells to obtain nutrients. Production of toxins. Let's know about production of toxins. Toxins are usually poisonous substances produced by microbes which tend to cause widespread damage or disease in host. They may be necessary for virulence. The various types of toxins are exotoxins, B toxins, like this. Let's know about exotoxins. They are produced inside the bacteria and either secreted or released following microlysis. The toxin genes are often found on plasmids or via lysogenic phages. Most of them are enzymes and function to destroy certain host cell parts or inhibit particular metabolic functions. The damage from toxin results in the particular signs or symptoms of a disease and can be named for the disease, type of cell attacked, or organism that produces it. Example, tetanus toxin causes tetanus of muscle. That means contraction of muscle. There are 3 types of exotoxins. One is beta toxin. Beta toxins, it is composed of 2 parts, where A is the enzyme that disrupts some cell activities, while B blinds surface receptors to bring A into the host cell. Example, botulinum and titanium toxin. Now come to membrane disrupting toxins. It causes lysis of the host cell by disturbing the plasma membrane. Example, leukocytidins make protein channels in phagocytic leukocytes. Example, hemolysins make protein channels in RBC. That is, hemolysis means Streptococcus pyogenes. Now come to super antigens. They are the bacterial proteins that can proliferation of T cells and release of cytokines. Excessive cytokines can cause fever, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, shocks and death. Example, toxin syndrome. Toxin syndrome means staphylococcus. Example, enterotoxins, that is staphylococcal food poisoning. Now come to endotoxins. They are the part of the outer membrane portion of the cell wall of gram-negative bacteria. Example, lipopolysaccharide (LPS), which is related when dead cells lies in blood, cause macrophages to release high levels of cytokines, resulting in chills, fever, weakness, small blood clots, tissue necrosis, shock and death. Also endotoxic shock, which is basically the critical loss of blood pressure, is caused due to bacterial endotoxins (LPS). Sterile solution can contain LPS because bacterial dies in sterilization, but LPS is all unaltered due to serious consequences. At very low levels of LPS, it is essential to test medical devices and solutions for endotoxin presence. Response to toxins. If exposed to toxins, antibodies against the toxin are produced, which are called antitoxins. Exotoxins, when inactivated, can no longer cause disease, but they can stimulate the production of antitoxin. Altered exotoxins are also called toxoids. These toxoids, when injected, to stimulate the production of antitoxins and provide immunity. Examples include DPT vaccine. Several vaccines that are being presently produced are the outcome of such attenuated toxoids. Now come to plasmids, lysogeny and pathogenicity. Usually, plasmids carry genes for resistance to antibiotics and virulence factors between the bacteria, allowing new bacteria to become pathogenic. Example, hemorrhagic E. coli. Also, prophages can result in lysogenic conversion that results in pathogenic ability of the bacteria carrying them. Example, diphtheria toxin, that is Corynebacteria. Cholera toxin, that is Vibrio bacterium vibrio. Phage can be transmitted to non-pathogenic strains, making them virulent. Now come to bacterial antigens made into vaccines. In another way, bacterial antigens, that are components or products of pathogens, are the substances that induce the immune defenses of the host to defend against and to eliminate the pathogen or disease. In the laboratory, these bacterial antigens can be manipulated or changed so that they will stimulate the immune response in the absence of infection or pathology. These isolated or modified antigens are the basis for active immunization against bacterial disease. Thus, a modified form of tetanus toxin, which has lost its toxicity but retains its antigenicity, is used to immunize against tetanus. Or antigenic parts of the whooping cough bacterium, Bordetella pertussis, can be used to induce active formation of antibodies that will react with the living organism and thereby prevent infection. Now come to antimicrobial agents. One line of defense against bacterial infection is chemotherapy with antimicrobial agents such as originally a group of soil bacteria, the Streptomyces, were the most innovative producers of antibiotics for clinical usage. They were the source of streptomycin, tetracycline, erythromycin, and chloramphenicol, to name just a few antibiotics. Because bacteria evolve rapidly toward resistance, because bacteria can exchange genes for antibiotic resistance, and because we have overused and misused antibiotics, many pathogens are emerging as resistant to antibiotics. There have already been reported infections by Enterococcus, Staphylococcus aureus, Pseudomonas aeruginosa that are refractory to all known antibiotics. Bacterial resistance to antimicrobial agents has become part of a pathogen's determinants of virulence. There are examples of genetic means by which bacteria exert their virulence. The usage of antibiotics to control the growth of parasites is an artificial way to intervene in the natural process of host-parasite interaction. But of course, it is done for the obvious purpose of curing the disease. The body heals itself. Most antibiotics just stop bacterial growth, and the host must rely entirely on its native defenses to accomplish the neutralization of bacterial toxins or the elimination of bacterial cells. The judicious use of antibiotics in the past 5 decades has saved millions of lives from infections caused by bacteria. Now come to pathogenic properties of virus. Let's know about pathogenic properties of virus. Viruses are a group of sub-microscopic entities showing obligation relationship with living cells of the host and ability to cause specific disease. The viruses normally, first point is, grow inside host cells to hide from immune defense. Second is, it kills immune cells. Example, HIV kills Th cells, thereby evading immunity. Now come to cytopathic effects. Cytopathic effects. They are visible effects. Of viral infection on host cells. Some effects will kill the cell. Some will just change the cell. First is, this virus stop DNA, RNA and protein synthesis. Example, herpes virus blocks mitosis. Lysosomal autolysis of host cells. Example, influenza autolysis bronchial epithelium. Production of inclusion bodies by which one can identify a particular virus. Example, rabies virus produces Negri bodies. Syncytium virus, syncytium formation. Example, syncytium formation means neighboring cells fuse together. Its example is varicella zoster virus. Next point is change in cell function, that is measles. Production of interferons by host cell triggers host immune response. Induced antigenic changes on host cell surface triggers destruction of infected cell by host immune response. Induced chromosomal changes. Cell transformation may activate or deliver oncogenes resulting in loss of contact inhibition. Cancer, papillomavirus. Example, papillomavirus. Thank you. Now come to eukaryotic pathogens. A number of eukaryotic also causes disease in plants and animals. The eukaryotic pathogens are fungi, protozoa and algae. Fungi. It produces toxins causing allergies or disease. Example, chromic sinusitis caused by black molds, while Stachybotrys leads to headaches, vomiting, mental disturbances, and invasive systemic mucosis. Is immune compromised patients is caused by candida. In mushrooms, the mycotoxins produced may be hallucinogenic or deadly. Fungal waste, first point is fungal waste produces may cause symptoms. Chromic infections provoke an allergic response. Trichothiazine toxins inhibit protein synthesis. Example Fusarium. Proteases. Example Candida. Trichopyton. Capsule prevents phagocytosis. Example Cryptococcus. Wait. Capsule prevents phagocytosis. Cryptococcus. Example Cryptococcus. Ergotoxin. That's example is Claviceps. Alpha toxin is example is Aspergillus. Mycotoxins. Neurotoxins. It's phalloidin. Amanitin. Example amanitin. Nita. Now come to protozoa. It can grow inside host cells causing lysis. Example malaria, plasmodium. Therefore, it uses host cells as a food source and produce waste that cause disease. Protozoan waste products can cause symptoms. It avoids host defenses by growing in phagocytes, antigenic variation. Next is algae. It produces neurotoxin substances. Example poisoning due to dinoflagellates. Thank you. Finally completed.